So I wanted to highlight a comment that I got from one of my members, and very good comment. I want to break it down and give you my thoughts on it because I think it really stood out to me. And so let's get into it. So what they had said was, quote, "You are becoming a dad to a lot more people than you'd think producing the content you are, which is why I support you. More men in my age bracket, age or early 20s, need more exposure to men like you who that are teaching, not preaching or virtue signaling. Well-spoken, straightforward, self-respecting, and deeply thinking. Too many men are walking around aimless and misdirected. There is a massive leadership and brotherhood gap in the current male landscape. Your content serves to prevent that, one upload at a time. Thanks, Pops." Well, thank you. I appreciate that comment. And that comment, it matters not because it's flattering, but because it really it highlights a real problem, one that I identified back in March when I started my channel, and the reason why I started my channel, a huge reason, because there are a lot of young men out there in their teens and their 20s that they don't have the proper information or guidance. I know that I didn't have that when I was younger, and it would have changed my life dramatically. I would have made way less poor decisions. And that's what I want for them. I want them to have an easier road ahead of them in their 30s and their 40s, to not have to struggle, to really to get caught up and to not get distracted by things that don't matter. And yeah, I did have a lot of fun in my teens and 20s. I did a lot of cool stuff. I had a great time. I had a lot of cool friends, did a lot of amazing things. I wouldn't change a thing, but I can identify certain things that, where I can say, yeah, I would have been better off had I known this or not done that. And so, but there's, and I had a feeling that I was going to be able to get some traction. I didn't realize that I would get this much traction this quickly. And so I'm humbled by the amount of people that listen to me. And I thank all of you for tuning in, but I just want to get this point across because it matters a lot to me that men don't make the same mistakes that I did, and they do have a life where they can wake up every day excited and feel they want to carpe that diem or whatever. So, but this comment that this person left, it really highlights a lot here that I want to unpack. Because yeah, I mean, when I was their age, when I was 18, 25, whatever, I made decisions without understanding the long-term cost. It was all living in the moment. Having clear information earlier would have saved me a lot of time, a lot of stress, and years of recovery. And so the comment, it doesn't compliment tone or personality. What it does is it highlights the difference between explaining reality and telling people what to believe. Right? The difference between teaching and preaching. And that the difference, it decides whether men listen or they tune out. Because with preaching, it tells men what they should think without explaining why. And it also assumes some type of moral authority over them. And sometimes without accountability attached to it. Whereas teaching shows men what actually happens after specific choices are made. I did A, B happened. That's the consequence. But if they're being preached to, then men are just going to shut down, especially if they feel judged or talked down to. I think that applies for anyone in general. No one likes to be talked down to. Men, they engage when they're given direct information, when they're given facts and allowed to make their own decisions. Because at the end of the day, they have to make the choice. If they're a legal adult, then they have to make the choice. You can give them all the information in the world. As long as I can give somebody the information, at the end of the day, like I said, they have to make the decision, but at least I gave them another path, the better path. But the thing about teaching is that it only works if the message is easy to understand. Because if words are confusing, then the lesson it doesn't land with them. If you're using complicated language, then I would say that often means that the idea hasn't been fully fleshed out or thought through. Whereas if you use clear language, that comes from experience that's been tested over time. I think it's very important to distill complex, to convey and distill and convey complex ideas and concepts in a simple way. Because young men, they already feel overwhelmed by work and by having to make money and relationships and just all of the pressure that comes with being an adult now. And when you add all this unclear language, it creates doubt instead of understanding, and complexity becomes a bottleneck. I love the acronym KISS, keep it simple, stupid, or keep it stupid, simple, whichever you prefer. Because simple language, I think it shows respect for a man's ability to think. Clear words, they help men trust their own judgment. And I'm not saying this isn't I'm not saying to talk down to them and talk to them like they're 6. I'm just saying to be able to, yeah, if you know big words, that's good for you. But just be able to read the room and just speak plainly to people. You don't have to use big words. I was in sales for a long time, and it really rubs people the wrong way when you do use big words, or jargon, things like that. The idea is really to just talk to them like they're a human being, meet them where they're at. But yeah, I mean, even clear information, it won't really help if a man doesn't trust himself. And that trust, it starts with self-respect. And self-respect, well, what is that? What is self-respect? Well, it means saying what you believe and not backing down from what it means you say what you mean. And you don't back down to be liked. You're okay not being liked for what you say, for what you believe. Self-respect, it means being willing to stand alone if necessary. A man without self-respect, he really struggles to separate good advice from bad advice. Because if you maybe didn't have a good relationship with your father, maybe you were constantly seeking his approval, so you become this approval-seeking person. I mean, wanting approval, it causes men to really ignore warning signs. It makes your judgment clouded. You need to learn how to have internal standards, because those do provide stability. It's a foundation that you can work from that's way more reliable and sturdy versus outside praise, because you can't rely on that. It's outside opinions, they change. You can get praised one day and cursed the next. It happens all the time. When a man respects himself, he can slow down and he can think long term. That's what you need to do, is think long term. I don't care if you're 18. Think about the road. Think down the road to when you're 25 and 30 and 35, because it's coming quicker than you think it is. It feels like only yesterday I was 20. 2006. And that's the thing. 2006 doesn't feel that long ago. I mean, 2016 doesn't feel that long ago. My son was My son's 11 now. When you have kids, time flies. It flies when you get older, but when you have kids, it really flies. So if you have kids, then prepare to be blown away by how quickly time flies. So, but yeah, to their point about he mentioned deep thinking, like what deep thinking actually means, because that's when, like I said, when a man respects himself, he can slow down and he can think long term, and that's when decisions start to improve. And deep thinking, it means pausing and not reacting. There's a huge difference between response and reaction. Reaction's a more knee jerk. It's more abrupt, whereas responding, you pause and you think. It's more strategic. But yeah, deep thinking, it means not letting fear or anger, or excitement decide for you in the moment. Like that's what reacting is. It's letting that instant fear or anger or excitement make the decision for you in an instant, and that is bad. But yeah, deep thinking, it means ignoring trends that just they don't lead anywhere. Intentions don't protect you from consequences. They don't. Most serious life problems, they build slowly over time. They compound. It's these little decisions that you make in your 20s that compound and then leave you stuck in your 30s. But the thing is the warning signs are usually clear if someone points them out early, and that's what I'm here to do. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying that I have everything figured out. I'm just saying that I've been there, done that, and putting myself out there is gonna help. I'm gonna at least be able to cast a wide net and be able to help a few people to point some things out, because I've gotten plenty of comments from that video where I talked about, I'm 40 and I talk about my, the time that I felt like I did waste, because I did waste some time. And I got a lot of really great comments from these younger men, these 18-year-olds and these men in their early 20s that thanked me for making that video. And I hope that that they made a good decision, versus if they hadn't seen that video, they might have made another decision. So yeah, by me putting out a video, I could potentially help people at least think about things. Whereas before they weren't thinking about them. They weren't thinking long term. They were going to react instead of respond. Because without long-term thinking, men lose direction. And that loss of direction, it oftentimes it shows up as frustration and confusion. Many men were never taught how small choices they add up over the years. Like I said, they were encouraged maybe to feel confident, but not warned about consequences. And a lot of men, they learn everything the hard way. I learned a lot of things the hard way. And yeah, there is wisdom that comes through experience, but if you can learn from somebody else's mistakes, that's preferable to learning from it yourself firsthand. Secondhand is always better. Because you don't want trial and error to become the only form of education. Because what sucks is that the time that the lesson was understood, the damage was already done. Damage is inflicted in that lesson. Pain is a good teacher, for sure, but you don't want to have to learn from your own pain. Then there's aimlessness. I understand that perfectly well. when you're not provided any direction, and you have no sense of leadership. Men inherently need to lead. They want to lead, but you have to learn how. And I mean, because a lot of people, they say, well, what is leadership? Is that just being a manager or something? Is that just being able to tell people what to do? No, leadership is, it means helping men understand what's ahead of them. It means if you're a good leader, you're explaining reality to younger men without sugarcoating it. I think many modern figures, they focus on attention instead of responsibility. There's a lot of loud opinions out there that are competing with useful guidance. And some of these opinions are so loud that useful guidance isn't heard or noticed. But leadership is so important because without it, men are they either guess or they follow bad examples. And that's what I was doing a lot in my earlier years, was just guessing or following bad examples. But then there's also this brotherhood gap in this modern age, because leadership alone isn't enough. I mean, men also need other men in their lives that aren't just that are alongside them. Leaders are important, but also it's vastly important to have, it's very important to have just men in your life that are on your level, that can also speak honestly and directly to you. Other men that can share information without trying to one up each other. And I'm not saying that you can't compete. Sometimes you have that dynamic with other men where you kind of one up each other, and it's just there's some camaraderie in that. But not all. Sometimes it's annoying. Just you got to read the room when it comes to the one-upping thing. But yeah, I mean, brotherhood is so important because it means warning other men before they make avoidable mistakes. And there are so many avoidable mistakes that I made. And I'm trying to point out those avoidable mistakes to other men. That's why I do those private calls with young men. I talk to young men. I talk to men my age, middle-aged men. I've even talked to men that are my dad's age, that are trying to reconnect with their son, their college-age son. They dealt with parental alienation, and they're trying to reconnect. Men come to me with all kinds of different reasons. So I encourage you that if you're going through anything like that, I mean, I am limited in scope, but young men that are looking for just guidance. Like I'm not a therapist. I'm not a lawyer. I can't help with trauma. I can't help fix what's wrong with you inside. I can just hear where you're at. If you're looking to make wise decisions and you're at a crossroad, whether that be with relationship or with your professional life, or maybe you do have maybe a high conflict situation with your kid's mother, whatever the case may be, I can be there for that and kind of help walk you through it and show you what, use my life as an example to kind of help you with your discernment on a possible next path. So I can help you out with that. I've got a link down below if you're interested in speaking to me, if you've got something going on. I've also got a number down below. If you don't want to book a call, if you just want to talk for a few minutes, I do have a number that you can reach as well. All of that's down in the video description. But yeah, that's the thing. It's just, I'd say a lot of male spaces, they tend to reward appearance instead of honesty. I feel like there's a lot of still in these situations with other men's spaces, you have to wear a mask. That they're not privy to shadow work or Carl Jung and individuation, being able to face the dark parts of yourself and integrate. You still have to wear these masks, these parts of your shadow. You still have to do that, and it's just exhausting. And I experienced that a lot in religious circles, having to wear masks. It was exhausting, and being preached to instead of taught. Um, but yeah, I mean, men are punished socially for telling uncomfortable truths. So real male mentorship has become difficult to find. And I would say that's what I really am. I mentor. If you want to, now I'm not like a coach. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a lawyer. I'm more of a mentor. And I've been able to help a lot of men that are going through a lot of difficult things. But yeah, when leadership and brotherhood disappear, mistakes they repeat and they compound. And most of those mistakes, they follow the same pattern. I mean, many bad outcomes they could be avoided with the right information early on. Because the warning signs, the alarm bells, they appear long before things fall apart. And like I said earlier, pain, it does teach. Pain teaches, but it takes years, and it costs a lot. Learning only through suffering, it wastes time and opportunity. And if you stay quiet about it, that allows the same mistakes to keep creeping up and happening over and over and over again. And that's why this channel matters. That repeated pattern is the reason this channel even exists in the first place. This channel it represents what I wish someone had said to me earlier when I was younger. It exists to help men avoid unnecessary hardship. It exists to give advice, to hopefully you heed my warnings. I want to be able to give advice instead of you having to learn these lessons the hard way and to learn them too late. I want to help with this channel, help men make decisions with their eyes wide open. Because lack of information almost always leads to bad outcomes. I want what's best for my men out there, the young men out there that have a lot of potential. My homies, dudes, my dudes. There's so many men that are meant for great things. And those things might not happen if they don't avoid something that could easily be avoided. If they make just one bad decision. One decision can change the trajectory of your life forever. One decision. And I want to be able to get as much information out there as possible so that I can reach a man before he makes that decision. That's why I exist. That's why I'm here. And I in closing, that's what I'll leave you with. That's why I'm here. I love you guys. I want the best for all of you. And I don't want you to have your 30s and your 40s and beyond where you just feel alone and filled with regret. Because that's the thing. No man, I think that's what men fear the most, is that ending up in that place. Yeah, they had all this fun, but then it led to this place where they just have this immense regret because they didn't do some simple things to avoid some very avoidable issues. Yeah.